abduction experience from the National UFO Reporting Center. Location: Ueda, Japan. After loss of sleep with no dream recall, I had an abduction experience and UFO sighting. I was with my partner in the same bed with my 3 cats. We went to sleep quite late. We both wake up without experiencing any dreams, which I thought was weird, as I've been having for the last 2 months daily dream recall, apart from other UFO sightings and experiences. My partner decided to sleep, and so did I, as we felt like we didn't have any sleep or rest. As soon as I slept, I started having a lucid dream where I saw my younger self drawing UFOs that looked like saucers with encryptions on the surface or symbols. After this, I woke up in a sleepy state. I heard a telepathic voice in my head that was a male voice coming from what seemed to be a plasma-like being in my room. I wasn't afraid this time, as I've had other telepathic communications before this event. As I was still sleepy, I wasn't sure what he was doing, and it was a bit hard for me to remember everything he said, as these experiences of telepathic communication can be quite overwhelming. At some point, he said to me that he wanted to give me a checkup out of love, as in compassion or kindness. As I felt he didn't have any negative intentions, I was okay with it. So, he then gave me a warning to prepare myself, as he would show his real form. I started to see him change shape, and sort of wait by my window. I looked to the right where my closet was supposed to be, and there was an open doorway with 3 medical staff wearing green or blue medical uniforms waiting at the door for me. I still felt groggy, and walked voluntarily to the doorway, entering a room which seemed very white and clean, and definitely wasn't my home anymore. Once I realised what was happening to me, I started to panic a bit, and my heartbeat was very fast, but I did manage to calm myself down. It felt like they wanted me to go on this metallic bed, and as soon as I did, that what I experienced was missing time. I had no recollection of the checkup that plasma being said he wanted to do, but I found myself wandering into another medical room where there was an elderly man on a metal table having some sort of IV drip, and then after that, I woke up in my bed. I went to my bedroom window to write my experience in my journal, and looked out of my window and saw a white spherical craft in the sky passing by. I feel that the more comfortable I am becoming, the more they are revealing themselves to me, and the more conscious I am becoming of these types of experiences. UFO sighting 1643-14. Location: Greensboro, NC, USA. This is not a UFO sighting. This is an abduction, or physical encounter. On the night of August 1st, early morning of August 2nd, I believe I was visited by extraterrestrial beings in my apartment bedroom. I have experienced sleep paralysis numerous times in my life, and this was far from it. I slept with my lamp on, and awoke to looking at my lamp in my bedroom, which was closest to my door. I was unable to move, and I was able to see white medical tubes all over my body, similar to an IV. There were at least 2 people or entities walking around the left of me, out of my view. I felt as if someone took a needle and put it in my arm and gave me something that paralysed me. But I was awake to the point where I could see and hear my entire bedroom. It also felt as if something was draining blood and energy from my body and dehydrating me. I moaned and was unable to turn my head, but I was focused on my lamp, and I could see and hear people moving in my bedroom closest to the wall where I could not turn my head. It was as if I was raised or propped up off of the bed, because I was able to hear and see my phone ringing. It was my ex-girlfriend calling. I started to cry, because, well, I felt like I was going to be killed or drained completely of blood or whatever the hell was happening to me right now, and that I would not be able to make a phone call or call out for help. I was able to make eye contact with my phone and see that she was calling. It was 4 AM, which is the time that she wakes up and goes to work. I was able to slightly turn my head towards what was moving in my room, but not enough, but I could still hear my phone ringing and vibrating. I could still make out some white IV-like tubes all over my body, and it was painful. I could not stop moaning from the pain at all, but did not have enough strength to scream. I would blink every so often, as it felt like something was physically sucking liquid out of my body through these tubes, and I felt the weakest I've ever felt in my life. I could hear an air-sucking noise, similar to a tyre deflating in my ear, which would last for around 3 or 4 seconds at a time. I then decided to try and struggle as much as I could. I felt like I was going to die if I did not get to my phone or call out for help. I was awake as I am now, but was physically unable to move, and I could feel, see and hear everything around me. This lasted close to 15 minutes. I remember not being able to stop moaning from how much pain and dehydration I was feeling. I could still feel rustling and walking all around my bedroom, which scared me the most because, well, I could not do anything about it. All I could do was see the dark shadows on the wall from someone moving in my bedroom, but my eyes were still able to see the lamp. I took a deep breath and blinked, and all of the tubes were off my body. I was able to move now. I sat up and grabbed my phone and saw that my ex-girlfriend called, and I decided not to call her back till the morning. I was exhausted by now. My body was dehydrated, and it felt as if I'd not drank water for a week. It really hurt. My arm had 2 small scab and prick marks, as if I was poked with a 2-pronged small needle. I was not nervous or scared anymore. It did not process to me what happened until the next morning. I called my ex-girlfriend back and talked about it. I must say I've never experienced anything like this, and I do not want an explanation. I really just wanted to share an experience which happened to me, and I truly believe that I was visited in my apartment bedroom in Greensboro, NC. I did not witness any bright lights or see a UFO, and I'm typing this on August 13th, and still have the scars and scabs on my arms. UFO sighting 18/16/45. Location: Putzbrunn, Bavaria, Germany. I've had encounters with greys since I was a child, feeling watched in my room and drawn to the stars, fostering an early fascination with aliens. Despite finding greys both creepy and cool, I can't recall exactly what happened during these encounters. My mum often saw UFOs but mysteriously always forgot to check on me in my room. I've noticed my eye colour sometimes turns red. I have premonitions and feel special. According to self-tests, I've often been abducted, always sleeping with my head towards the wall. I suspect I might be a hybrid, especially since my mum saw UFOs when she was pregnant with me, and I was frequently ill as a child, with doctors unable to explain my anesthesia immunity. Later on, intense experiences between 2016 and 2019, particularly in 2017, stand out. One evening, while playing on my computer in Munich, I saw a grey, feeling no emotions until after it vanished. Despite not seeing them as malevolent, and even playing with their hybrids one night, I now sleep with the lights on due to fear. A strong blue light flooded my apartment one night as I was falling asleep, making me wonder if it's typical during abductions. Contemplating hypnosis to recall what happened right now, I'm unsure about finding a suitable hypnotherapist who wouldn't dismiss my experiences. Reflecting on my experiences, I'm uncertain if the greys mean me harm, as they would have done something by now if they really did. I wonder if hypnosis could unlock memories of these encounters and seek advice on finding a non-judgmental hypnotherapist. Lastly, I feel mentally connected to the greys, I must say, despite my fears, and I ponder my identity and potential hybrid status. I feel different from other hybrids due to my lack of black eyes. I wonder about my connection to the stars and my immunity to anesthesia. I've been inside Area 51 once with another group, but I'm not sure if it was a dream. Furthermore, as I've clarified, I believe I'm a hybrid, and I see them as my family, especially during the day. But at night, I'm just scared. Apparently I'm also very human. I can medically prove that I'm different. I just don't want contact with them at night. Whether I have an implant, well, I don't know. I'll be very grateful to have someone to talk to who just listens and might be able to help me. UFO sighting 11/73/98. Location: Canada. 3 short entities surrounding my bed. A possible abduction. The following event occurred on the night of February 15th, at approximately 2:30 in the morning. Roughly 1 week later after this incident, I've decided to openly talk about it, even if I don't feel really comfortable talking about it at all. I'm a 47-year-old guy, living by myself. My house is located in the northern area of St. Bridget de Laval. a small and calm town located about 40 kilometers from Quebec City. This is a really calm area without any neighbors. It's basically a dead end. The house is surrounded by forest, mainly pines and regular trees. This is not a suburb. This is the woods. The house cannot be seen from the street, and there is no street lamps nearby. To reach my house, I need to take my private access road, less than 100 meters. At night, the whole property is pitch black, as I hate leaving the exterior security lights on all night long. Since I had bear issues in the past, I installed 4 motion detection halogen flood lamps that are pointing at each corner. I live there alone. My typical weekend night is to watch movies on my laptop computer in my bed. I also drink a few beers, maybe half a 6-pack. I normally first start watching the first film at 9 PM. When I feel like watching a second one, I start it right away. If I don't fall asleep and I feel like it, I'll even watch a third one. But sometimes I'm too tired and fall asleep during a movie. And that is what happened on the night of the incident. I started the first movie at 10:30, nothing unusual. Did not feel sleepy at all. The movie ended at 12:30. Perfect for a second movie, I thought. I started it right away. It was a long movie, and if I closed my eyes, I would fall asleep almost instantly. The movie was so boring, and eventually I fell asleep for good, and woke up during the ending credits. I tried to rewind the movie back to the moment when I fell asleep, but I just kept falling asleep and waking up. And then I woke up and found my laptop had died. I forgot to plug it into its power supply. There was no lights on inside or outside the house, so I tried to grab my phone and use it as a flashlight, although I couldn't find it. Then, I saw what I can only describe as a flash of bright yellow and white lights outside the window. My heart started racing, because, well, I've never seen lights other than my motion detection lights over there. Since my bedroom window is looking at my backyard, this could be a city truck or any truck with rotating yellow strobes. Plus, I did not hear any sound. I approached the window and looked closer. For a split second, the flash or light came back, and all 4 motion detection lights powered up at the same time. I rapidly checked out every window of every corner of the house but couldn't see anything that was moving. Needless to say, my heart was beating hard and fast. I went to check out all of the exterior doors and see if they were locked, when the motion detection lights turned off. I checked out the time on the microwave oven. It was 2:30. I put my laptop aside and got into bed, trying to figure out what could have caused this. And during this moment, I fell asleep again. I was far too tired. But then, it happened. I could describe it exactly like when you stare at the sun or a bright light with your eyes closed. You can see a reddish orange glow even when your eyelids are closed. I was awoken by the bright light that was covering my entire home. My eyes seemed sealed shut, but I could see a powerful red-orange glow through the eyelids. At first, I thought I was dreaming, so I did not bother opening my eyes. After this, I began to see dark figures blocking the light for a second or two. I woke up and realised that I was not dreaming at all, and that my entire house was indeed lit by an unknown light source. I could hear what I can describe as a humming noise that I could not hear with my ears, much like a vibration my head was picking up. Then, I opened my eyes and was shocked to realise that there was 3 short humanoid beings about 4 foot tall, with big heads, big slanted black eyes, a slit for a mouth, and a really thin neck, all surrounding my bed and staring at me. Their arms, hands and fingers were long and slim. I was terribly, terribly scared, and felt like every hair of my body had risen. I tried not to look at them because their heads, they traumatised me. I couldn't stop looking at them in fear. The last thing I remember is hearing a high-pitched noise inside my head, and then nothing. Gone. It's the morning already. I looked outside and noticed that snow in my backyard is now lower, at least 1 feet. My experience induced me great fear, but now I know what many people have actually been through. In all honesty, I am currently not okay with what happened at all, and for now, I just stay in a motel room until I feel I'm ready to go back home. Sighting 13-91-97. Location: Jarvis, Canada. Almost 15 years ago, I experienced something as a 12 or 13-year-old that I couldn't explain. Maybe 5 years ago or so I reported this, but I forget where, and I'm not even sure it was a legit site. So this time, I wanted to again record and submit this to a site centre where I know it would be logged. In about 2003, when I was 12 years old, I'm speculating on the exact date, I lived in a 2-storey house out in the country, about a 5-minute drive from Lake Erie, 1.5 hours south of Toronto. My bedroom was in an upstairs room, next to my brother's room, on one side of the upstairs. I went to bed at approximately 9:30 or so, and had an alarm clock radio next to my bed which had green numbers to tell the time. I would always hit this one button on my radio which would play music for 59 minutes and then shut off, and in that time, I'd be asleep. On this particular night though, I was listening to the radio trying to fall asleep and remembered it was a Kelly Clarkson song that was playing, and suddenly, with my eyes being open, found myself flipped on my bed, so that my head was now where my feet were, and I could see my alarm clock on my bedside table next to my feet. I was still facing the same way in bed, which was north. My bed was in an east-west direction. I laid down with my head on the east side of my bed, looking north, and now my head was on the west side of the bed looking north. This whole flip lasted about 5 seconds or so, and I could still hear the song playing on the radio. Then, I remember being outside my house, hovering over the roof, and I would say this was maybe 200 feet above the roof of the house. I don't remember being sucked up and out of the roof, I just remember being there. I could see the countryside around me. We lived close to several forests, and there were many open fields of agriculture in the area. My grandparents also lived around the corner from us, which I could get to by walking or riding alongside the fields. All of this landscape was discernible to me as I hovered. I would say I looked around for 2 to 5 seconds while hovering in the air, and I was still laid on my side while hovering, and could not move my body. I was just able to turn my head 45 degrees or so. Looking up towards the sky, there was a bright light shining down towards me. I don't recall seeing any craft, nothing I could make out. Just a very bright yellow-white light. I'd estimate the light was maybe 100 feet away from me. Still paralysed from my neck down, and still looking up at the light, I spoke. I'm pretty sure it was just my thought that was saying this. I didn't actually say this out loud. But I said, "Please don't take me. Leave me here. Take someone else." After that, I was placed back on my bed in the position that I was initially flipped to, with my head on the west side of my bed and my feet next to my nightstand with the radio on it. I do not recall being moved back to my bed, just remembered being back on my bed after the incident. I'd say this whole encounter lasted maybe 20 seconds or so. When I was placed back on my bed, the same Kelly Clarkson song was still playing. While it was still early in the evening, I got up and went to my mother, who was awake downstairs. I told her what had just happened to me. She told me I must have had an out-of-body experience. The two of us never spoke of it again, until maybe 3 or 4 years ago. At the time of the incident, I was just a regular kid, in the sense that I knew what a UFO was, but was never fascinated or intrigued by them or gave it thought. I've told my wife what happened a few years ago, not really sure if she believed me or not, but other than those 2 occasions with my mother and my wife, I've never spoken about them with anyone. I just think it's a crazy thing to happen, and to keep it to myself without reporting it to a credible organisation would be doing a disservice to many people out there. Since then, I would say I've had 2 other encounters. One where I was frozen through my apartment window by bright lights, and the second, I observed some suspicious lights flying over the road I was driving on. I think the encounter where I was frozen by lights outside my window could be related to my first experience, but obviously I'm not sure. I've really never told anyone about these other 2 occurrences, and have not reported them either. But either way, I hope this helps you guys. Sighting 66953. Location: Sydney, Australia. I recently stumbled upon your website and decided it time to report one of dozens of sightings in my life. I've witnessed dozens of flying objects as a keen sky observer and budding amateur astrologist, but cannot verify any of them, as I always seem to be isolated and alone when it happens, and many are most likely space junk causing shooting star-like objects to fly across the night sky. I've seen dozens of these now. I once reported to the Australian police a sighting of a perfectly round object hovering above my top floor apartment which appeared to be at least 5 miles wide. This was ignored, and I myself quickly wrote it off as just light refractions. My report here, however, is not of a UFO, but of a being. I'd walked out of my home late at night as I was studying. It was approximately 1999, so I cannot recall the exact date. The night was still and silent with no wind. I walked outside my backyard and spotted a white figure. I estimate it to have been 4 feet tall. It was all white with a subtle glow. I stood frozen in shock as we faced each other off for approximately 3 minutes. We stood only 5 meters apart, so I could make out the shape, but could not discern a face nor shoes. It was completely white. In that time, the object sat on top of my fence at the rear of my backyard, which fell into parkland behind it and made no effort to run away. It did not move for the whole time, even as I approached. I got spooked when I was 5 meters away though, and stopped purely because this figure did not seem worried by me approaching it. We faced off for the next long 3 minutes, and then eventually it slipped over the fence and disappeared. As it slipped away, it did not make a single sound. The object did not move, and as I stood frozen I simply stared at it thinking it was burglar. Strangely though, the figure simply disappeared after a few minutes. It did not make a single sound as it did. Burglar hopping a fence would have made some noise, and in the dead of night I would have at least heard leaves crunching underfoot. But in this case there was not a single sound. It simply vanished. The fact it was all white left me to this day with the eerie feeling that what I experienced that day was not a burglar but a potential visitor from another world. I could not see any discernible features other than it was a human type shape. I did not see arms or legs though, roughly 4 feet tall. It seemed to be shaped like a round blob sitting on my fence. And then, like a jelly blob, it flopped over the fence and disappeared. It did not make a single noise in doing so, and I did not hear a single noise thereafter. This story is not provable and more for your information than for public publishing. The area where this happened could even be tested as the fence upon which the figure appeared has not been changed since. It could have been a potential burglar that night, but if it was, then it was one highly skilled dude, because not only was it terribly out of shape and unathletic looking, it was shaped like Jabba the Hutt from the Star Wars fame, but it managed to completely disappear without making a single sound in the dead of night, and it seemed to just roll off the back fence, which is around 8 feet tall. Also, if it was a burglar, why would it be wearing only white clothing? To usually wear black. To this day, the thought of that night sends a chill up my spine. So, I thought I would report it for documentation on your database. This happened in a suburb called Ashbury in Sydney's inner city area. The park is called Wagner Oval, a highly populated area, but my home backs onto a large park which is where the figure disappeared into. It was also approximately 3 AM, and no one else was on the streets at the time, and the park was silent. My study is at the rear of my house overlooking my yard, and my lights were always left on throughout the night as I studied for many years. Perhaps that attracted this figure. A burglar again would have been deterred given that I was active till late all night. This figure though seemed to be sitting there just watching me, until I noticed it. I stared at it off from a distance of only 5 meters, and it did not flinch nor seem worried either. It sat there the entire time before disappearing.